Classic TV fans, Rick 9G here. Thank you so much for joining me today. We're going to be talking about Three's Company, one of my favorite shows ever. Now, my goal is to reach 150,000 subscribers by the end of 2022. So I really want to thank every single one of you who have subscribed so far. If you haven't and you've been watching and are hesitant, you should really subscribe. I'm talking to you. Yep, the one who has been hesitant to subscribe. That's you. It's absolutely free and it does help me out so much, so thanks ahead for doing so. Now, if you're a big fan of Three's Company, you will be really familiar with the apartment, one that Jack, Janet, and Chrissy usually called home. It's one that we feel comfortable in. I mean, it feels like our apartment. Now, I am going to talk a little bit about the layout of the apartment, so let's start here. Let's look at this really cool top-down blueprint view so you can see the entire apartment. It really shows everything clearly. Now, you can pause the video to look at this in detail for yourself, but you can see Jack's bedroom on top. The girls would share one on the left-hand side, and the restroom. We see the outside patio area, the indoor basically entrance, the main living room area, and then on the right, that's what I'm going to be focusing on, the kitchen. Now, I'll zoom in so you can see a little bit closer. We see the swinging entrance for the kitchen. This is how they would go in and out. We see the table right in the middle with 3 chairs. Directly to the right of that, you see the oven, and we see other things like the sink, and on the right hand side, how that curves around, we have the island or those kitchen cabinets which are used there for cooking and so forth. So I really want you to be familiar with this layout. There's about 10 to 12 feet of space between the door and the oven. So that's really important to talk about, especially in this episode where I'm going to be talking about the shrinking kitchen. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, let's look at this other mock-up, which should explain my point a little better. Not only is this a really cool mock-up, a little miniature of the Three's Company's apartment, and it shows how a TV facade or TV set is made. You see that a lot of this is foldable. They could fold this up, they could take out and remove a lot of the furniture, for example, in the kitchen, and they could shrink it. They can essentially shrink that space and use that space for something else, another set. Maybe they're talking about an outdoor set and they could fill it in that little area. That is super important because essentially, if you don't notice, the kitchen shrinks on Three's Company. Let me show you an example of that now that we know this entire layout. Now let's focus on season 6. Season 6, episode 1. It's called Jack Bears All. Now in this one, Cindy moves off to UCLA. Jack and Janet find the emergency room nurse Terry Alden as their new roommate. So Terry gets off on the wrong foot with Jack, and he and Larry devise a plan to get rid of her. The reason why I'm using this is because we can see a bit of footage of the kitchen, and it pretty much highlights what I have been talking about, so you can be really familiar with the kitchen. I won't go into too much detail because I kind of already did, but I want to compare this to when the kitchen actually shrinks. And for that, we need to move to an episode in season 6. It's called Up in the Air. Now, Up in the Air has been rated as one of the best Three's Company episodes ever, season 6, episode 25, and it's the one where Jack is escorting Janet to kind of a private party. It's a boring one, to say the least, when Jack consumes a tranquilizer, mixes it with alcohol, and he becomes the life of the party. It's one where he dances and just goes crazy, and it's such a good example of physical comedy. But what we do get to see is Jack enter the kitchen a few times during the beginning of the episode, and as the door swings in and out, we never actually go inside. That is, we as the audience never go inside the kitchen in that episode, and they do have a larger set on that side. So what they did, they compacted that side of the set, and if you open the door to the kitchen, which I'll show you here, you can actually see that they shrank the kitchen. They made the farthest wall where the oven was really close to the door, only about enough space for Jack to come in there and hide for a little bit, and then to pop out just a few seconds after he left the groceries or did whatever he had to do. This was something that they would do not only on Three's Company, but other TV shows as well. If the audience or the camera doesn't need to go in the kitchen, they just shrink that part of the set. It's something that was also done on Gilligan's Island. I've actually made a video on that, so if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out. They shrink the Howl's hut in order to make room for other things. It's a pretty interesting video, very much tied in with this, a little bit of behind the scenes secrets into how they make TV shows. Did you ever catch this? How in different episodes there are shrinking sets, and in this particular case, the incredible shrinking kitchen of Three's Company. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of this technique, and if you ever noticed that the kitchen was a lot smaller in certain episodes. I'd love to see your comments down below. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for the support, and most importantly, be hopeful. Thank you so much to my supporters on Patreon, especially my Diamond tier patrons. New patron Gerard D, David D, Citizen Kane 359, Greg S, Kevin K, Ricky, Sally, and Vito L. Make sure to check the links in the description to see how you could be on this list as well.